Hello, and welcome to Inside the Third Space. In each episode, we delve into the concept of being in the third space through the unique perspectives of different individuals, uncovering their insights, experiences, and identity. My name is Nasreen Danish, and I am an educational developer at the Faculty of Engineering at UNSW Sydney. To me, being in the third space gives me the opportunity to be a blend of the intersection of academia, administration, and community engagement. Today, I'm joined by James Bedford, an educational specialist in artificial intelligence at UNSW College. James, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, James, if you could tell us a little bit more about your role and how long you've been a part of the UNSW community.
All right. Well, I started here about 10 years ago when I started my PhD in creative writing, supervised by Stephanie Bishop. Shout out to Stephanie. And coincided into a role at Academic Skills just when I submitted, which was a perfect blessing that allowed me to get into a job that I loved early on. And from there, I spent about 3 or 4 years working just around the hall, actually, at the Learning Centre, um, and moved on to the University of New South Wales College as an education specialist in artificial intelligence. So that's been my role for the last 6 months now, and I'm still sort of working out what it entails, but it's been, yeah, very exciting.
Oh, that is very exciting. So you've actually answered my question about how you landed in your role because you mentioned about how you finished your PhD and then the role sort of lined up, which is great. So what I was going to ask you is, when did you first hear about the term third space, and what does it mean to you?
Yes, great question. I can't pinpoint the moment that I heard the term, but it was in the last 2 or 3 years, I think. And when I first heard that term described, it was like being seen. It was a way to sort of capture the complexity of my role. I like most third space academics will relate to the feeling of trying to explain your job to people at like dinner parties or family members. And it's often you have to decide like, how am I going to pitch this? Like there's so many things that I do. People are asking, so do you teach? Are you a lecturer? Do you, help students with their assignments? Like what is it that you actually do? And so when it kind of the term third space came out, it was like, wow, my role is actually quite complex, and it's okay to have a challenge explaining what it is, because it's so multifaceted. So when I first heard the term, I just felt like it really captured a that sort of Venn diagram of like the overlapping nature of what a professional staff member would do, but also what an academic or an educator might do. And for a lot of people, they might not see those roles blending that are outside the university, but they in fact do blend. And there's a great space that can emerge within that, which is, yeah, full of innovation and exciting opportunities.
You're so right, because it does get very, very difficult because when we hear university, everyone just thinks you're either teaching or you're doing admin stuff. So the third space being this Venn diagram is brilliant how you've explained it. So what do you think are challenges as third space professionals
Mm.
face?
Yeah, the challenges. I mean, apart from describing your role at dinner parties, the challenges are like far and few between, really. Um, for me, I think it's partly the often our role isn't perhaps there's a bit of a kind of, how would you put it, elitism that can happen, working with some academics who may not value your experience as a professional staff member. Um, and that can be frustrating at times, but understandable because they just simply don't know what a professional staff or third space academic does. And so that can kind of creep in. So that's one of the challenges. And another challenge is often sort of like being seen within your role. There's so many amazing third space academics at this university. I could name 20 off the top of my head. Madeline Wilson from Academic Skills, Rashad Abdullah, Dominic Fitzsimmons, like incredible people that often don't promote what they do on LinkedIn or Twitter or Blue Sky. They just quietly do the work on a day-to-day basis, and help students and bring people together and do such incredible things and inspire me in my teaching. But often they're not seen because they slip between the cracks, and they're just getting on and doing the work. So that's sort of one of the challenges is trying to find a way to promote yourself, trying to find a way to get your work sort of seen while still doing the work, um, and also trying to actually, promote your work in a way that, like, through research or conferences or publishers, like publications, that can be really tricky on top of what often is a very kind of heavy plate, and a very heavy load, trying to find the time to do that. And I think for a lot of third space academics, it's like you really have to push to dedicate time to write and produce like content for articles or for conferences that you want to present at. And that's part of the challenge, I think, is finding the space to do that within a role that's so demanding.
Um, yes, thank you. So, what's more important for third space professionals to be doing right now?
Well, this is something that isn't for everyone, and it's something that I think is important to consider. So I encourage professional staff and third space academics to get on social media. And for a lot of like some of the best people I know aren't on LinkedIn. They're, like I mentioned, quietly doing the work in silos and doing incredible work at that. But often no one really hears about it. Now, LinkedIn is full of, all sorts of people writing all sorts of things, and there's all sorts of voices going on. It's just one example of the many places you can promote yourself. But being able to share your work in spaces where other people can view and see what you're doing, I think is a really powerful way to have an influence and have an impact on others, on their teaching practice, on students, on education. It's great to sort of do great work and have it be sort of, have it resonate with those that you interact with. But I think it's also important to actually share that work with a wider audience. And I've met some like great people on through LinkedIn. I've reached out to people to collaborate with them, and they've been very open to doing so. And once I sort of swallowed that kind of that pride of going on to LinkedIn a few years ago, which was something that I was like, sort of a bit kind of unsure about. I wasn't a LinkedIn person, right? Um, but I just thought, you know what, like I'm gonna get on there. I'm gonna share what I'm doing and what my colleagues are doing because I think other people need to hear about it. And from that has come so many opportunities. And I've been able to collaborate with so many people that are, brilliant people that I've been able to work with. Mira Kim, for example, who I just randomly reached out to on LinkedIn. She works here. She runs the Pele program, and a great educator, great teacher, someone I really admired. And she actually was happy to work with me, and we ended up writing an article and publishing it in a book. And that came out of an opportunity because she saw the stuff I was doing on LinkedIn. She knew who I was, and that created an opportunity for collaboration. So I know for some people they will resent me for saying to get on LinkedIn, and I totally get that. It doesn't have to be LinkedIn. It can be Blue Sky or Twitter if you're that way inclined. But just getting your work out there in front of people, I think, is something that it's bigger than ourselves. We want our work to have an impact, and it needs to go beyond our pride of like being on LinkedIn and sort of that kind of tall poppy thing that pops up with Australians often is not wanting to promote yourself too much, which I understand. And that's all well and good. But if the work matters and if it's important to impact people and students and stuff, I think it's for the better good.
Absolutely. I agree with what you just said. It's so important to promote, well, not really promote, to put yourself out there, to let them know, let the community know what great work you're doing, and then being a part of it. Collaboration is key in this third space. So what would you then tell people who want to explore a role in the third space? Would you actually say do it? Or and what sort of experience or advice you would provide to your third space peers?
Yeah, I think. Well, my best advice would be getting on social media, but also like collaboration is so important. You can do so much more with others. You can do a lot by yourself, but working with others, that's where the magic happens. We see that, like, I'm a writer, a creative writer, and we work in silos.
Mm.
Like it's always been the way it is. Like we work alone, we write, we go to our desk and we do the work. When I became a teacher, I was so enthralled by the kind of the community that I found of educators where people get together and share ideas and share practices, which writers do all the time, but often they don't get the chance to actually collaborate.
Mm.
And that was something that I found really wonderful, was just being able to work with other educators. And in that space, we see how ideas come about just by talking to one another, and drawing on one another's expertise and interests. That's where like real innovation happens. So I always encourage, people that are looking into getting into the third space to consider, finding out who has a similar interest, where you're working, joining forces, asking if they want to collaborate. You'll very rarely get a firm no. It's often that others are excited, just as excited as you, to collaborate and work together. So yeah, getting yourself out there a bit and just seeing who would be interested is always a really good way to start. And yeah, I go for it. Like, those space roles are fantastic. I think it's the best of both worlds. You get to sort of dabble in teaching and education and working with students on sort of ground level, but then you're also working on developing policies and assessment guidelines and integrity policies to sort of help improve the academic integrity within the university. Like all sorts of things that sort of allow you to sit within multiple spaces across an institution, which is, yeah, super exciting.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait to see what else you're bringing to the artificial intelligence space at the college. And we will definitely be in touch. Well, thank you, James, for joining us and sharing your insights. To the listeners, thank you for tuning in to the Inside the Third Space. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the third space. This episode of Inside the Third Space was presented by me, Nasreen Danish. Our editor is John Chai. Our recordist is An Nguyen. And our producer is Diana Turnip. We were joined today by our guest, James Bedford.